Broad match keywords get a bad rap. But is that fair? And should you be using broad match keywords in your Google ad campaigns? Well, in this video, I give you my answer to that question, and I explain when you should and when you should not use broad match keywords in your Google ad campaigns. Now, the trend that we're on when it comes to Google and keywords is very, very clear. Over time, Google has been making their keywords more and more open. They've been encouraging advertisers to use more broad match. There's been adjustments to exact match and phrase match to make them broader. I mean, that's a trend that's likely to continue. So that's sort of the first thing to say. And we have to think about, why is Google doing this? Now, one of the reasons that they give is that by making keywords function more broadly, your ads get put in front of more searches, therefore you get more clicks, therefore you get more conversions. That's a good thing for advertisers. They also say that if your ads are put in front of more searches and they get more clicks, that more data is generated, and we know that Google ad campaigns improve with more data. That allows Google to optimize and make all sorts of adjustments and recommendations and help us advertisers get better results. So that's the sort of the line that they take and the reasons that they give us advertisers. But one obvious one that we have to be aware of as Google advertisers is that Google simply makes more money if they treat their keywords more broadly, whether that's encouraging to use broad match or changing the keyword match types and how they function. And that's simply because if advertisers' ads show up in front of more searches and they generate more clicks, us as advertisers are paying Google more, and it allows Google to monetize searches that would otherwise not really be monetizable. If all advertisers are just going after really specific keywords that describe the products and services that they offer, well, there's all these searches that Google just isn't able to serve ads to. But as they make keywords more and more broad, they're able to sort of argue and put ads in front of searches where you as an advertiser might look at it and go, well, I guess it's kind of linked to what I'm offering, but not really. Google's now able to monetize those. So those are the reasons why it's happening, and that's why it's very unlikely to stop happening. Google makes more money this way. And there are some genuine arguments around it helping us Google advertisers improve performance. And my advice when it comes to broad match keywords and whether or not you should use them is that it's a good idea to test broad match keywords. I'll explain exactly when in a minute. But I definitely wouldn't start there, and I don't think it's a good idea for beginners. There are all sorts of issues that can come up. Again, I'm going to cover those in a second. So it's not a case of never use them, and it's not a case of always use them. I do quite strongly feel that if you're new to Google Ads, if this is your first campaign, you've only created a few campaigns, you're still learning the ropes, that it's not a good idea, that you can run into a lot of issues and waste a lot of budget quite easily if you start by using broad match. And something that I need to mention, particularly if you're a Google Ads beginner watching this, is that when you try and not use broad match keywords and you're running your search campaigns, you try and take them out and focus on phrase and exact, Google's not going to like that. They're going to try and convince you to put them back in. You're likely to see pop-ups and recommendations within your ad account. If you speak to a Google ad rep giving you advice on how to get better results, they're likely to advise using broad match keywords, and they'll give you legitimate reasons like you'll get more searches and more clicks, but that might not be the best thing for your business. So don't feel guilty about taking them out and feel like you're doing anything wrong if you see advice from Google in various forms telling you to put them back in. Remember, it is largely self-serving for you to have broad match keywords and have keywords that operate more broadly, more searches, more clicks, more money to Google. So just be aware of that and don't feel guilty about taking them out. Now, the reason why I don't recommend that most beginners use broad match keywords in their Google ad campaigns is that the more and more time you spend in the search terms report, and if you're not familiar, search terms report is a report that Google provides within your ad account where you can see all the searches that cause your ads to appear alongside those searches, and you can see which searches generated clicks and conversions if you've got conversion tracking set up properly. And what you will see is that when you do that, when you look in the search terms report in ad accounts that are using search campaigns with broad match keywords, is that Google gets pretty wild with the searches that they put your ads in front of. And you will see, for example, the difference between the keyword that you inputted and then the eventual search that caused your ad to be shown. That's not really what you want. You don't want your ads put in front of every single search that might have a slight relevance to your product or service, what you're offering. You want to spend your budget most efficiently. You want to get the most bang for your buck. And your budget being spent most efficiently is most likely going to come from people who are searching for things that are very closely related, if not exactly along the lines of the product or service that you offer, because those people searching for that are much more likely to convert. Yes, you might end up paying a bit more per click because there's more competition, but that's in more cases than not, that's going to be more than made up for by the increase in conversion rate because the intent is going to be so high. So that's why your objective and Google's objective to some extent do diverge, and being able to spend your budget most efficiently is really important for Google Ads beginners, because if you don't spend your budget efficiently and you are paying for clicks that are unlikely to convert, the overall profitability of your Google Ad campaign is going to go way down. It might mean that it's not profitable, might mean that you can't advertise, might mean that you can't scale. It's really important to get that efficiency in the beginning. And as you become a more experienced advertiser, you spend more time in a search terms report, you come up with more ways to mitigate those issues, I'll explain in a second, then you can look to expand into broad match. But at the beginning, it's a good way to waste a lot of budget, I think. And unfortunately, a lot of Google Ads beginners do end up using broad match keywords because it's the default. If you don't add any, grammar, I suppose it is, around your keyword to change the match type, whether it's to phrase or exact match with brackets or quotation marks, then it's going to go in automatically as a broad match. So a lot of beginners, they first start advertising on Google, they're entering some keywords, they're broad match, and they don't even realize, they don't know to check the search terms report. Often the campaigns won't work, they don't understand why, and actually if you just explain them this concept, show them the search terms report, they'd understand it really, really quickly. Oh, I burnt through my budget, didn't get many leads, didn't work for me, because it is the default. So a lot of advertisers fall into the trap of using it when they shouldn't. Obviously you're not going to do that because you're going through this video, which is great. Now, if you do want to use broad match keywords, here's the scenario in which I'd recommend that you do so. Firstly, you want to get the most out of the traffic that's available when using exact and phrase match in your particular niche. And it might be that you never need to expand to broad, but that is a scenario in which I'd be looking to expand to broad. It's like, this is the higher quality traffic, the traffic that's most likely to convert through exact and phrase. Let's start with that. Let's get the most out of that possible. Let's get that nicely profitable. And then once we're in a situation where we want to scale and we're just maxing out on search volume, we can then look to go broad. That's the scenario in which I would be looking to entertain broad match keywords. The other thing that's really important is that you need to have a well-developed and built-out negative keyword list. So imagine most of you know, but a negative keyword are keywords that you can enter that will prevent your ads from being shown alongside a search. So for example, you could enter in the word free as a negative keyword, and that means that any search that contained the word free, your ad would then not be shown for that search. And that might be really important for your business because if someone's looking for free, they're unlikely to be a good customer. That's an obvious example, right? Now, because when you go broad, you are going to get all sorts of searches for all sorts of things that are, like we said, sometimes loosely related to the actual keyword that you entered. There might be all sorts of things that you need to prevent Google from showing your ads for. All sorts of searches you go, I don't want my ad shown for that. I don't want my ad shown for that. I don't want my ad shown for that. Free, trial, there's classic ones that occur across industries, and then there's always going to be industry specific ones. There could be particular brand names where you're like, well, if they're looking for that brand, they're not going to buy my thing. They're looking for that brand. And once you've had a campaign running for a while and you start to see in the search terms report the sorts of things that are coming in, you can use that to build out your negative keyword list. And that especially depends on how you actually construct your phrase match keywords, right? Like, are you including a relatively detailed long phrase? Are you using short phrases? That will affect how broad that keyword operates, and therefore the searches that cause your ads to be triggered. But you will start to see that in your search terms report anyway, even before you go into broad. So you can really start to build out your negative keyword list. And then when you do add in broad match keywords, then it's really important to be on top of your search terms report and adding in significant negative keywords. Now that does take time to do, and it might mean that you see a drop in return on ad spend initially. The added search volume is probably pretty good if you've got to that stage, and that once you've built out that negative keyword list, made some adjustments, you may well see better overall results over the long run. But just something to be aware of, and something that you're going to have to, if you want to go into the world of broad match keywords, something you're going to have to be prepared to do, I think, to get the best possible results. It's also worth noting that it is by no means impossible that Google makes broad match mandatory. As I said, that is the trend that we're heading in, broader and broader and broader, and they might get rid of exact match, they might get rid of phrase match. I hope they don't. I do think it's unlikely, but it might be possible. If it does, we're all going to have to go down the route of using broad match with extensive and heavily built out negative keyword lists. Given that, I'd recommend you take advantage of the situation now and primarily use exact and phrase match, particularly in industries where you have lots of search volume and you don't need to go broad, you don't need to go after that real long tail stuff. You can get the leads, the customers, etc. you need from exact phrase match, where the searches are going to be more related to the specific keywords that you've inputted, and there's going to be more buyer's intent, more intent to become a lead, and more intent to do the thing that you want as an advertiser and what you're paying for at the end of the day. Another Google Ads question that a lot of advertisers wrestle with is whether or not to use the Google Ads display network. Well, in this video here, I explain exactly what the display network is, how it works, when you should and shouldn't use it. So if you've ever thought about expanding from search and starting to use the display network, if you haven't already, go ahead and give this video a watch. I think you'll find it very valuable.